Hello and welcome to the show. I am back on a Car Mechanic Simulator. Today we are going to be trying out the slick tyres for, well, these two vehicles. You see, both the SLR and McLaren F1 were quite a handful when it comes to tackling the circuit. And I am curious to know what difference. I mean, these things are on, I believe, race tyres. I'm not actually sure what the McLaren SLRs over here. These look like sort of sport tyres or equivalents of. They're on, half-decent compound tyres. However, both of them had a lot of handling issues. Now, there is a certain inbuilt amount of, well, in the game, the handling is at times a little bit wonky with high-powered cars, but bear in mind, the fastest car to ever go around our test track was a Pontiac GTO, and that still had some 800-ish horsepower, I think. Not quite as much, no, as the 1,200 that we have in the SLR here, but that had a fair amount of power and was still quite drivable, which got me thinking, because that car, when I built that one up, did have, well, had slicks. It had, I say drag tyres. I was going for the drag racing style look for the car, but it did have slick tyres on the vehicle, and I was able to do a 50-second lap, I believe, somewhere around 50-second lap, around the test track. Whereas these two cars, the McLaren did a 1 minute 0.7, the SLR was in a 1 minute 2.3 or 1 minute 2 point something. Anyway, a long way off. And that's some 10-12 seconds on a Pontiac GTO, and that shouldn't really be the case. Oh, while I think about it, I was going to use the engine that was in this as a kind of workshop engine. You can't even really see it very well from over here. Somewhere, there we go. That's how to do it. Yeah, we were going to use this engine as kind of a workshop engine. However, I decided I wanted to have another engine in this one, rather than swap them around on camera, so I just built up another engine for this, as you do. Just, build up a 1,200 horsepower supercharged V8 for the McLaren. That does mean, though, that I will need to get some more oil. Put some oil in this engine before we go racing. I'm going to do it now, otherwise I will forget later on, and then people will laugh at me for having forgotten oil again. At least the game doesn't let you start up the cars if you've forgotten to put oil in it. There are a few games that will. God, what was it called? Rev Head? There was another mechanic game I played a while back that I pressed the wrong key and just blew the engine to bits because it wasn't quite completed. I pressed the, fire the engine key and everything exploded. This game's not that mean. This game is not that mean. Right, so wheels. We are going to... I don't see any point in getting more extra sets of wheels for the car, so we'll just get one set of wheels. What set of wheels do I... To be fair, the wheels that are on the McLaren I quite like. I think it was 17. Possibly. Certainly no, 17B is what we have on the SLR, sorry. Yeah, I actually quite... maybe we'll go with 06, actually. I quite like those as well. Right, so let's get 4 of these. We're going to go for... Crap, what size wheels? What size wheels did the cars come with? It is, they are, one's on 18s, one's on 19s. It is the SLR that's on the 19s. We'll go with 18s then. I think my game's having a little bit of a freeze in all of that. Hold on a second. I meant to clear up my inventory before before filming this. It's a horrible place to go. It's a horrible place to go. The game has some massive issues. Right, so we're going to go for 18. We'll go for 4 of those. Now, tyres. We are going to be wanting... so the tyres that the car, certainly that the McLaren F1 were on, is the race tyre. I believe the tyre that, looking at the tread pattern, the SLR was on was this sport tyre. However, we are wanting these buggers. The full racing slicks. They are fairly expensive. However, they are going to do the job. Now, what we are going to have with these... Ooh, I should probably figure out what profile the tyres are on. That would be a good idea. Bear with me here. So, separate... Alright, so they're 35s. Okay, so yeah, 35 profile, 3, 4. We're going to try and get the same size tyre. So 275s fronts, and 3, 4, 5 rears. Let's see if we can... yeah, so we want that to be 18, so 35. Will you let me go? You should... okay, we're going to get 3 2.5s at the back. Curiously... Sure. So we'll get 2 of those. Yes. So we'll have slightly smaller tyres, although I do seem to remember having done this. The test regarding the tyre width I have done before, and that didn't make a blind bit of difference to the vehicles. So it shouldn't really matter. This is more for the aesthetic sake more than anything. Right. So let's go and install... okay, have we got... no, okay, we've got... sure, we got... Okay, so the Classic 08 is quite similar to Classic 06, it turns out. Sure. Right, let's get these tyres sorted, we'll get the tyres balanced, and then stick them on the car. I got bored waiting for the balancer, so we've started sticking the wheels on the cars. Yeah, these ones... they fit. They look sensible enough. They look the part, at least, on the McLaren F1. There we go. We will get... We'll make sure that I click on the 275s at the front and make sure... I wonder what on earth the game does if you have the car on different compounds, front and rear. That could get... I mean, well, theoretically that should cause many hideous handling problems. What the game would do with it, I don't know. It might not even let the cars go if you were to do that. Right, McLaren is here, shod with some nice full-on slick tyres. Time to go and find out how much quicker that car might be. So we are back to a familiar testing ground with the F1. As I said at the start, it is a 1 minute lap time to beat for the car and a 50-second lap time to try and beat if it might potentially go faster than that Pontiac GTO. Ooh, that's a little bit of a bounce off of the wall. Now, the good news from what we are seeing with this car so far is that while it still has this inability to drive in a straight line, it does seem, a little bit better in some regards. I've got to be very careful of the bodywork. Now, this isn't a issue we've had before, really. The F1 is the first car that really has the splitter catches these curbs. The splitter will launch the car up into the air if you hit the curbs too hard, so we are going to really have to try to avoid them. Now, the car... We have actually got it going vaguely in a straight line. It doesn't really return to a centre point almost, bouncing across the curves onto 2 wheels there. There we go. Nicely does it. Ooh, a little bit carried away. See, that curb there, ooh. That curb there, ideally, I mean... I'm trying very hard not to intentionally cut the corner there to gain lap speed. Of course, you can take a fair big chunk out of that corner if you so wish. But ideally, even, keeping it within the confines of the circuit, you would push it as much as you could with getting wheels across the curb. But if you do it in this, the front splitter catches, fires the car up into the air, and that is that. Now, certainly in terms of drivability, this feels better. This feels a much nicer car to drive in terms of lap speed as well. Considering we bumped a wall, I think we are going to go significantly faster out. That's another wall there. But we've taken 5 seconds off our previous lap time. Still can't get the car to go in a straight line, but we're down to a 55. We've gone quicker than the Shelby Daytona, quicker than the Peugeot 205 as well. 205, I still need to fix the suspension up on that car. That was driven with wobbly suspension. So yeah, the 205 is still by far and away my go-to vehicle in terms of how... Ooh, that's a bugger. The 205 my go-to vehicle in terms of how I'd want a car to handle. It's a brilliant handling car on this game, even with the Wobblematic suspension. This, I wouldn't categorise it as a brilliant car to drive. However, I would say that it is, considerably better. If you have this mod, I very highly recommend you remove the standard tyres immediately in favour of some lovely slick tyres. It really does make the world of difference. Oh, I've got way too carried away into turn one. We can definitely do... Hell, I had to grab reverse that lap, and we still did a 58-second lap. So that goes to... Oh, that really goes to show I can't be that bright. I tried a slightly different angle of launching it across the curves. It's really not going to have it. Now, in terms of the little competition between this and the SLR, now that might help the Mercedes. It might help that Mercedes... because that can be aggressive with the curves. That doesn't have the issues. It doesn't get bounced around. Some of these curves I can hit okay. I think it's if I hit them... Like, there's a thicker bit of the curb at the back, essentially. If I run across the thin part, I can get away with it, but I'll hit the thicker part of the curb, that's when I'm really in trouble. Now, we have got it lined up. I have actually got to full throttle here briefly. Now, we're going to go on the brakes, hope that the car doesn't violently veer around. Look at this. We might even slow it down. Oh, we've done turn one and kind of, it's sort of turn one, turn two, kind of all melds into one around there. Now, avoid that curb. We haven't got launched into the air. This is looking good. In fact, that last lap, despite having a terrifying moment down towards the first quarter, was a 54, a little bit wide. Not quite where I wanted to put the car. However, that's more like it. Now, this upcoming chicane, you can kind of straight line it. Again, though, it's a little bit dodgy in the F1 with its tendency to be flung about across these. There we go again. It's actually all nicely, neatly done this time around. Get the car onto the main straight. Kind of get it set and then just floor it. Hope that we don't have to correct the vehicle at all. It's not going to go quicker than the Pontiac, but it will go 8 seconds faster. 8 seconds faster than it did previous. Now, that answers the question. How much difference do the slick tyres make? A huge amount. I think, to be perfectly fair to the car, the 2.5 seconds it needs over the Pontiac, certainly this car's ability to ride the curves won't help it. While the GTO had piddly front tyres, I don't think it actually makes a blind bit of difference. It doesn't really matter to this game, the thickness of the tyre. So the Pontiac had no issues with turning, and yeah, could ride the car. You could see how low the splitter is at the front of this car, why it's causing issues when you go over these curbs. I'll probably beach this car on a curb. Okay. Oh, almost managed to roll it off of a curb. Oh, it's really not liking this. Oh, yeah, we really could beach this on a curb, I think. Oh, no, very close, not quite. Right, big improvements for the F1 down to a 52-second lap. The second quickest car we have ever had. Will the Mercedes see a similar amount of improvements? Does have a lot more power than this. Maybe it can go faster, or maybe it'll just be trickier to drive. So, fitting the, well, same tyres to the SLR is a little bit of a snug fit. And I mean, it fits. It fits in the wheel well, okay, when the car is up in the air. When you know, like, weight is put on the suspension, especially if we go over above, that wouldn't really work quite so well. I don't think there. However, it's what we have. It's what we've got. I'm not bothering with getting a whole new set of tyres for this car. It's not worth it. So we'll just have to deal with... there's a little bit more space for the front wheels. The front wheels are kind of okay. Yeah, it's fine. Nothing could possibly go wrong, and thankfully the game is forgiving with things like this. We're not going to have massive tyre rub and end up exploding a tyre going around a circuit quickly in a 1,200 horsepower car. Instead, the worst we'll see is potentially a little bit of clipping. I don't know if we will see that even. So, there we go. The SLR has got some tyres ready to take on the circuit. So, if we were to be seeing a similar level of performance improvement, we can be expecting a 54-second lap from this car. That is still mighty fast. That is mighty fast, to say the least. Now, whether it... Oh, look at that. That can actually run a curb, no problem. Now, we might see a greater improvement than that. As I mentioned, this has got considerably more horsepower, to the tune of about 300 more than the F1. That's a sizable amount. You know, that is a sizable amount of power increase. It's a little bit wobblier on the old suspension front, and the issues with the tyres and the wheel wells is, well, a non-issue. They're fine. They're absolutely fine in there, which is nice to see. Will we be able to, well, use the same technique we used in the F1, kind of get the car in a straight line, then we can get to full throttle. It's going to go very fast, but that's almost, it's not quite 200 miles an hour, but it's not that far away. Remember, this is on a very, very short track. It's a very short track indeed, only one real straight. As far as test tracks go, I mean, it's a pretty good circuit. It's a pretty damn good circuit for testing a car. You've got a lot of, well, you've got a lot of different sort of corners to tackle. The only thing we're really missing here is any sort of high-speed sweepers. There's a couple of turns that are a little bit faster, but we haven't got any real high-speed sweepers, although that's probably for the best with this game's handling at higher speeds. It probably works out better for everyone that we don't have to tackle all really, really fast corners. Okay, coming around this final turn, we are probably going to be seeing lap times similar to that F1. Quite frankly, we might be able to get the car down towards the start-finish line that little bit quicker. Oh, it's going to be close. It's going to be into the 52s with this. I'm not actually... I didn't expect to see this go quite as fast, and it has completely slipped my mind just how faster a 52 that F1 did. Oh, it's a little bit greedy across the curbs by me there. That was a tad bit adventurous. Oh, cones are mean. Didn't know that. Didn't we? We learn things every day when you play this game. And apparently, in the world of Car Mechanic Simulator, cones are mean. Cones are mean, and powerful cars have an inability to drive in a straight line. And curbs are vicious to low-slung splits. Actually, I think that's about every world. Every world, low-slung splitters have issues when it comes to nasty curbs. Oh, God, McLaren, please go in a straight line. Please go in a straight line. There we are now. Fire towards the start-finish line. We might go even quicker this time around. We have. We're into the 51s with this car. You can really see it bobbing. You don't realise how bumpy that main straight is until you're in a car like this. You can definitely see the different suspension characteristics of this car and the F1, how much it kind of squats down across that bump alone. We can see a little bit more body roll as well in the car through these turns. It is so much nicer to drive though with these tyres on as well. I mean, it made almost 9 seconds a lap difference. Oh, I'd switch. That was my bad. I trying to kind of correct it going into that chicane, and we got a little bit of a twitch. But I feel like we might even potentially be able to get into the 50s. I don't think we're quite as quick as the Pontiac. I think the Pontiac was a little bit more composed. Again, odd to say that, but I do feel like that might have been. I think it was easier to get the Pontiac to full throttle. Right, where is the little sort of bunny hop down the straight? There we go, look at it go. Slightly bounced off the wall that time around. Is a lunatic of a car. Yeah, if you're dealing with a car, I mean, it's generally good advice. You're dealing with a car with this much power, slick tyres, you're going to want them. You're most definitely going to want them. This thing was barely drivable on the sport tyres that it came with. I mean, I have tinkered around with the engine, of course. It's putting out a lot more power than initially intended. However, the standard engine in this had some 700 horsepower, and I'm fairly sure those tyres would not have dealt with it, certainly not around a track like this. So, yeah, to be fair, if you're dealing with anything over about 500 horsepower, you're probably going to want slick tyres on this game because the handling is a little bit shonky at times. Shall we go for one more lap? One more lap after this. In fact, this is going to be it's not going to be a better lap. Oh, it was a better lap, actually. It was a 51.3. However, we bounced into the wall and pinged off of it. The Pontiac will remain the fastest car we have around this circuit. I think I could, with a few more laps, I could probably get this into the 50s, but then a few more laps of the Pontiac, I could probably get it even faster as well. So this had a decent run around this circuit. Yeah. The main question, how much of a difference do the slick tyres make on here? Massive amounts. Absolutely massive amounts. And the SLR will get around this circuit faster than McLaren F1 GT, thanks to its considerably more power and its ability to attack the curbs. I will be honest, I should probably have a small time penalty with the tiniest of shortcuttings across the curb. Probably gained me a tenth or two with the line that I was taking. Either way, though, it would be quicker than the McLaren. So, there we go. Well, slick tyres, make a very, very big difference with the vehicles in this game. A nice thing indeed to know. Before we go, however, I do have a barn find to go and explore. And naturally, I want to go and see what vehicles we might find. Now, before we go out to the barn, we are going to say goodbye to the Mclaren. Of course, this car, very valuable. Almost $11 million. And, well, the whole point of getting this car was to restore it and sell it on. So, yeah, we are going to sell it because I've got various mods, all sorts of mods installed on here, and there is potential for very, very valuable cars to be found in barns. And I wouldn't want to be in a situation where I was a bit short on funds, because I can't go back to the same barn again. So, we are going to, sell the F1 GT. It has been an experience, a brilliant car indeed. You can be sold for many monies. We're up to 18.5 million. That's nice. That's a nice amount of money. We're going to keep the McLaren, the SLR, sorry, over here for a little bit, because I want this engine in here I'm going to yank out and stick in the Brat at some point. Might be next episode. We stick it in the Brat and do silly things with that Subaru. That'll be fun. However, depending on what we find in this barn, plans might change. Having built up this experience, I'm hoping we're not going to be disappointed in whatever we might find. Ooh. Okay, it's not a disappointment. It's even got a supercharged V8. It is a good day indeed. I mean, that's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good indeed. But this is a fantastic find. The Holden Effigy. Oh, I love this, guys. This is a brilliant, brilliant concept vehicle. It's in... Is it Test Drive? Test Drive Unlimited? The Holden Effigy? Oh, now this is some excitement. This is the sort of thing, yeah, this is the sort of thing I was hoping to find in a barn. It is 78 grand to buy. We needn't have worried about selling the McLaren. Oh, it's such a cool car. I love the Effigy. Yes, we're having you. We're definitely 1,000,000% buying you. Well, I guess that's what we're going to be working on next time. I mean, it would be rude, really, to leave the Challenger in the barn. You know, having come along and got the Effigy, it would be rude to leave the Challenger. So, you know what? We'll buy you as well. You can go into my car park of many cars still to work on. We've got a DB4. We've got a 300ZX IMSA car. Ferrari F40. Now a Challenger. We've got a Twin Millers. I've got many vehicles. There are many vehicles to work on. However, next time around, it is going to be... For a second, I thought we'd found the part for the Effigy. To be fair, the Effigy probably will be mostly complete, being a barn find car. I don't know what I'm expecting or hoping to find in here. It's just, when there's piles of junk, it's just too tempting to look around. Like, there's a Challenger headlight. You know what? Sure. Why not? Somebody left their spare headlight for the Challenger here. That was a good barn find. That was a very good barn find. And we have a new car to work on next time. That, though, is going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time, goodbye.